I'm happy to welcome Bridget Wanyaga with the title of a speech, Ain't Nobody Got Time. Ain't Nobody Got Time, Bridget Wanyaga.
Have you thought about death in the recent past? Well, I, like most of us, never gave death much thought. So long as it was something that happened to everyone else, but not those that I held near and dear. So even when death came for my grandparents, I somehow managed to get back to default settings within a few hours of crying. But all that changed when death came for my dad. And when death came for my dad, oh, she was prideful. She took her time. She wanted me to watch her at play. And watched I did. I watched as my dad, once a hefty man of enormous girth, shriveled. I watched as his eyes that could once tell just from one glance whether I was hungry, mad, or sad, sink back into their sockets. I watched as life slowly but steadily and surely got away from my dad's grave. I watched as my dad grappled with the Herculean task of putting his affairs in order. He was a man with too much love to give, yet too little time. And that's when I learned that some affairs are easy to put in order, but not those of the heart. On the 16th of October, 2019, my old man breathed his last. A week later, my family and I lined up at the morgue to pay our last respects. So there I was, staring at his body, dressed in his favorite denim from top to bottom, lying still in a brown casket, lifeless. That was life-changing. A part of me expected him to move, to tilt his head to my direction and say something, but nothing. That didn't happen. As I stood there, staring down at his body, there was this voice at the back of my mind whispering, "This is where it all ends. This is where it all ends. This is where it all ends." Steve Jobs said, "Death is life's change agent." My old man's death illuminated my own life. Having seen how and where it all ends, I found myself wondering, was I spending the time that life granted me on what is truly important? What truly matters? With this question at the back of my mind, I embarked on a journey to make the time between now and when it ends really count. During this time, I made tough, life-changing decisions. Decisions that I had previously not had the courage to make, out of fear, out of taking into account people's opinions, out of embarrassment, or just the fear of uncertainty and failure. In addition to this, I began an assessment of how I spent my days. So what followed was an arduous activity of recording all my daily tasks. Tasks at work, tasks at home, and even the tasks between tasks. I also recorded how much time I took in each of these tasks. And after that, I categorized all these tasks into 4 categories. My first category was the not urgent and the not important tasks. The tasks here involved all my time spent on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, name it, mindlessly scrolling, laughing at cat videos, responding to comments, and well, updating my Facebook post as well. I resolved to eliminate these tasks, or at least reduce the time I spent on them. The second category were the urgent and not important tasks. Oftentimes, these were tasks that interrupted my focus, distractions, and interruptions. I resolved to master the art of saying no to myself and to others, to make sure that every time I sat down to focus on a task, I completed it to the very end. Then the third category were the urgent and important tasks. I did spend quite a considerable amount of time on such tasks, but the time that I spent here was not of importance. It's the emotional turmoil and the exhaustion that came with the tasks in this category. Oftentimes because they included deadlines and pressing problems, crisis, if you may say. I resolved to adopt a do it immediately philosophy. And also, I resolved to deal with my procrastination tendencies. It's still a work in progress. And finally was the fourth category, the not urgent but important tasks. Matters of the heart, you may say. This included building my relationships with my family, with my friends, with people that matter, my personal growth, and many other things that I always wanted to do someday. I resolved to be very intentional about them. I set out a plan for each of them. And most importantly, I focused to be present every time I was carrying out these tasks. Since then, I have undertaken this arduous activity of time assessment, not once, but twice. I have to admit that I am still a work in progress. When asked, what's the biggest mistake we make in life? The Buddha replied, the biggest mistake is you think you have time. When we think we have time, nothing is urgent, nothing is important. But when death comes knocking, we realize, in the words of Kimberly Sweet Brown Wilkins, ain't nobody got time. Over to you, Timothy.